everybody, I'm Angie Larson, and I get to serve as the executive pastor here at Calvary, and I am so honored that you are worshiping with us today. Today we're in the middle of our worship series called For. So often in the church, we are known about what we are against rather than what we are for. And today we're going to explore the question, is God for fairness? I don't know about you, but I like for my life to have things to have clear rules and clear boundaries, things to be black and white or right and wrong. But here's what I think. I think God actually has something better for us than black and white and right and wrong. I think God is actually for gray, and not just because of the color of my hair. Stick with me and we're going to wonder more about this together. Welcome to church. So one of my family's favorite family dinners is shrimp tacos. Anyone else love shrimp tacos? I like it, my kids like it. I appreciate that it feels like I'm sort of offering my family a healthy choice, and I appreciate that it's really quick to prepare after you kind of get the shells all off of it stuff. And everyone in my house likes it so much that we actually now, I'm not kidding, whenever we have shrimp tacos, one of my kids feels like they have to count the shrimp. When they find out that it's shrimp taco night, they'll quick run to the kitchen while I'm cooking, and they will start counting the shrimp, and then they'll divide it by how many people are having dinner in our house that night. But then there's this campaign after the shrimp have been counted. The child that has counted them will march around the house several times and announce 15 shrimp. All right, we are only having 15 shrimp per person. That's right, be sure that you only take 15 shrimp. You know, because my kids, they want it to be fair. And I mean, I get it, right? Shrimp are delicious. But here's my question for you. Do you like things to be fair? Like there's a right way to do things and then there's a wrong way to do things. Like it seems right and a good thing that everyone should have equal number of shrimp on shrimp taco nights, and that it would be wrong if someone would receive more shrimp than you did. And I think we do this starting early in life. We look at our siblings, and if there's something that feels just a little bit unjust, or we feel like somehow we are lacking in any way, what did we do when we were kids? We yelled, "Hey, that's not fair." But it seems to me, though, that we bring this right for justice, this will for justice, we bring this into our adulthood too. This desire for fairness, this desire for things to kind of work out divided and equally, to either be right or to be wrong. When we find out what our colleague makes per year and we measure it up to what we make per year, maybe we shout, "That's not fair." Or we judge immigrants coming into our country from war and oppression and we shout, "That's not fair." Or we look at the laws and rights of people and we think that they should get what is fair, that they should get what they have earned or what they deserve. And if someone has harmed us, we demand that they get what's coming to them. You see, I think we want karma. We want fairness. We want an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth, or you reap what you sow. We want this black and white clarity. And we have this idea that what we put out there is what comes back to us. And we do this in our everyday lives, but I want to suppose today, I think that we do this deeply into our lives of faith as well. It's early on when we start to get the sense of that there's this order to the world, that there are things that are either right or wrong, or fair or unfair, or our way or their way, or good or bad, or black or white. We divide the world up into these binaries, into these two categories, and we base our judgments off of that. Now, binaries are an aspect of Greek philosophy that divides up the world into two categories of opposites. And you've been doing this your whole life. Let's practice a little bit. I want you to tell me what your opposite is. I'll go ahead and say something. Go ahead and shout it out at your screen. Up, down. Question, answer. Open, closed. Hot, cold. Big, small. Day, night. Near, far. North, south. Good or bad. Old or young, Republican or Democrat, saint or sinner. You see, I think as a human species, we are so good at making meaning in our lives. We divide things up into binaries so that we can, let's be honest, try and understand them, so that we can make judgments and move forward with our life based on binary thinking. And we do this in our world, and we do this in our faith as well. But what if a life of faith isn't black and white at all? What if a life of faith doesn't divide into binaries? What if a life of faith is actually kind of beautiful and complicated, this messy, nuanced shade of gray? What if it doesn't divide at all? Like many of you, some of you, I grew up in the church. My family was second pew sitters, and we were there every single week of my whole childhood, even on vacation. Can you imagine? Church for me growing up was very binary. It was very black and white. Stand up, sit down, you know when to do the things. There were things that Christians did, and then there were things that Christians didn't do. There were good things, and then there were bad things, these two binary categories. And quite honestly, I found it really comforting for a really, really long time. Like somehow I had the moral high ground when it came to swearing in junior high, because I knew that that was on the bad list of things to do. It actually offered me some nice guardrails to make some positive choices in my life, thinking things like, oh, the Bible says do this or don't do that, or good Christians do this and bad people do that. But it had this dark side too, this binary expression of faith. And here's the other truth of it. I felt a lot of pressure to be good, to be enough, and to be perfect so that I wouldn't fall into that other category, so I wouldn't slip over into the bad category. You see, guilt was such an active part of my faith life, maybe even, if I'm honest, the primary way I understood my faith. You see, this clear divide, this binary thinking, it led me to feel guilty nearly all the time because I mess up and I'd cross the line and I'd slip over into the other side. So then I'd feel obsessed and obligated to do the right thing, even when the right thing wasn't exactly clear. And then I would overthink and overanalyze everything because I might have just screwed something up. I jeopardized my faith, or if I thought the wrong thing, I would lose my standing in this Christian community in some way. Years later, as a young adult, I went off to college and I attended Valparaiso University, a Christian college, with the goal of going into youth and family ministry. At that time, I chose to double major in theology and social work, and I joined the chapel worship team, and I also joined a leadership team from a different student-led Christian group on campus. And I got up there in front of the church on a regular basis for chapel, and I did my readings. And in my student Christian campus group, I would help lead Bible studies, and I would play guitar. I rocked at being a college Christian. I studied my Bible and I prayed with my roommates and I invited other people to church. Yet life offered me something different at the same time. I found myself young and in love with this cute soccer player named Carl, who supported my goals wholly of going into Christian ministry. And when I was 19, the pregnancy test showed positive. And the foundation of good that I had built my life upon just completely crumbled. I went to my campus pastor to look for some words of comfort, some kind of hope or words of Jesus, of love or encouragement, something to soothe my deep, deep religious guilt that I felt. And he looked at me sternly in his office and said, Angie, you should feel religious guilt. I'm going to need you to no longer be a part of the chapel leadership team because you are a bad example to the other students. And I'm going to suggest one more thing. I think you should drop the theology major because no church is going to hire you as a minister when you're a single teenage mother. And so with that on my heart, I went to the other ministry group that I was a part of, this student-led Christian group on campus, and I was hoping to find some kind of solace or some kind of consolation or some mercy from them. And when I sat down and bared my heart to tell them of my pregnancy, they started to take out their Bible and quote verses at me to show me how fallen short I had come and how they had no place for my leadership there either. My parents and Carl struggled with talking to me for a while after I told them, and I felt alone and isolated and so ashamed, like I had done God so wrong. But here is the crazy and sad thing about my story of being kicked out of the church and being shamed by the church. This is the crazy and sad thing, is that I am not even close to the only one who has experienced this. I know that I am not the only one watching here today who's been shut out and burned and bruised by binary theology, by black and white theology, by division theology. Theology that says who's in and who's out. It's either this or that. One person gets God's love and the other person doesn't. I know I'm not the only one who's been judged by human standards of right or wrong or fairness or karma. I mean, it's the reason we're in this whole worship series called For, because you and I, we know what the church is against, but we never talk about what the church is for. But when I read the Bible, in the Bible, Jesus, he confronts this kind of thinking head on over and over again. And I believe, my friends, that Jesus is for gray. Jesus is for gray rather than black and white theology. In the book of John in the Bible, Jesus comes up to a man who has been born blind. And it was in this time and in this culture, it was believed that if someone was born blind, that it was the result of their sin, that it was the punishment for something that had been done wrong, that being born blind was a result of something bad that had happened. It was binary thinking. And this belief still exists in some cultures, even here today. So Jesus, he comes up to this man born blind, and Jesus' disciples are walking there with him, learning from Jesus. And all of this happened on the Sabbath day, on the day that no one is supposed to do any work. In fact, the Bible tells them in black and white to do no work right there on the Sabbath. So the disciples, they're curious, and they ask Jesus, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Here is the disciples' black and white thinking right there. It must have either been this man or his parents that screwed up so that he would end up born blind. But Jesus answers in a new kind of gray way. Jesus says, neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. And after saying this, Jesus spit on the ground, made some mud with his saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, the blind man, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went up and washed, and he came home seeing. But this isn't the end of the story. I mean, this is a good end of the story, but this isn't the end of the story. After this blind man starts to see, then the gossip train starts. The human gossip train starts. And the story continues. Well, his neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? Someone claimed that he was. Others said, no, he just sort of looks like him. But he, the blind man himself and sister said, I am the man. How then were your eyes opened, they asked. And he replied, the man that they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes, and then he told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Where is this man? They asked. I don't know, he said. I mean, can you imagine the commotion in this small village? What just happened? You mean a man can see, but on the Sabbath? So they bring him, the sinner or the former sinner, they bring this man who was born blind into the holy people because they need to figure this out. So they bring him to the Pharisees, the holy people or the good people, the church people, so they can figure out exactly what is going on. And the story continues. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind, and now on the day in which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. Therefore, the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. He put mud on my eyes, the man replied. I washed, and now I see. He's doing the same story over and over again. Some of the Pharisees said, this Jesus is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others asked, how can a sinner perform such signs? So they were divided. Here are the Pharisees with their black and white theology saying, if this guy healed on the Sabbath, if he did work on the day that you are not supposed to do work, then clearly he is not from God. But then the others who saw this miracle said, how could this awesome thing of healing a blind man be anything but from God? I mean, Is Jesus from God or is he not from God? Friends, what do you think? Should Jesus have broken the commandment of honoring the Sabbath to heal the man born blind? I mean, to me, it seems kind of gray. So what are the other things in our lives that we put divisions up about? Like, this is right and this is wrong. This is fair and this is unfair. These people are blessed and these people get what they deserve. I mean, for us, it's complicated, right? It's complicated and hard to wrap our minds on. But for Jesus, it really isn't. Because for Jesus, it's about love. It's about giving sight to a man who was born blind. For Jesus, it's about seeing the world as more gray and beautiful and nuanced and complicated than we could ever possibly imagine. And just giving us, Jesus followers, just a little hint into that deep, deep beauty. For Jesus, it's about realizing how big, how awesome, how merciful God really is. And for Jesus, it is about being for gray. For Jesus, being for gray is about abundance and goodness, about love and grace. For Jesus, it's about multiplication and not division. It's about realizing that God has space for both the black and the white and for all the messiness and shades in between. For all the shades of gray of unanswered questions, for all the complicated situations that don't have clear answers, for all the unclear places in our life where we don't know what to do. For Jesus, it is for gray because it is more nuanced and more personal than we could ever possibly imagine. Faith that God has answers that are for us. Faith that God is for gray. It's St. Paul who writes, "There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for all are one in Christ Jesus." Because of Jesus' work on the cross, there was no longer a separation between humanity and God. Because of Jesus Christ's work, there is no either or. It doesn't exist anymore. Divisions don't exist. Instead of karma, my friends, you get grace. So much grace, like so much grace. Like all you could eat shrimp amounts of grace. Now, my friends, I want to make this clear. I definitely don't recommend teen pregnancy in any way, because it is really, 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 really hard. And after weeks of crying alone in my teenage pregnancy and in my religious guilt, of crying alone in my dorm room, my phone rang. And I answered, and it was my grandma, my beautiful gray-haired grandma. I mean, I know that your grandma is great, but no grandma existed like my grandma. And I started our phone call by apologizing to her. I said, "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I screwed up. I know that I'm guilty, and I know that I have strayed, and I know that I made some bad choices. My mom isn't talking to me, and I got kicked out of the church, and I just apologized, and I cried, and I cried." And after my grandma listened to me for a while, she said, "Angela, now you just wait. Your mom will get over herself. And when this baby comes, it will be nothing but loved. So loved, because Angela, love doesn't divide, love multiplies." Friends, we can be for gray because love doesn't divide, it doesn't separate, it doesn't create binaries or opposites. Love multiplies. And we can receive grace, grace to heal the man's blindness, grace to overcome the unfairness. Grace doesn't say you get what you deserve. Grace says the opposite. Grace says you get exactly what you don't deserve. Because grace, it defies humans' logic. Grace sees in gray and not in black and white. Because love doesn't divide, love multiplies. You see, we can love despite divisions between us because love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Love can allow us to see in areas in which we are blind because love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Love can heal and build bridges when nothing else can because love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Friends, God is for both, for black and for white, for young and for old, for the tall and for short, for big and for small, for Democrat and for Republican, for women and for men, for the good and for the bad, for the saint and for the sinner. God is for the gray and for grace and for you because God doesn't divide, God multiplies. Amen.
Why are you striving these days? Why are you trying to earn grace? Why are you crying? Let me lift up your face. Just don't turn away. Why are you looking for love? Why are you still searching as if I'm not enough? To where will you go, child? Tell me, where will you run? To where will you run? 'Cause I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. Look at these hands at my side. They swallowed the grave on that night when I drank the world's sin so I could carry you in and give you life. I want to give you life. 'Cause I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. Here at my side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. 'Cause I love you, and I want you to know that I love you, and I'll never let you go. 'Cause I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. Here at my side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. Here at my side, my hands are holding you. Yes, thank you so much for joining us for worship today. Please join us in praying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us here for worship. Here at Calvary, we've been busy leaning into our mission, which is to lead all people to a lifelong faith in Jesus Christ. If you're new to Calvary, we would love to connect with you, and I want to invite you to join our email list. You can go on our website, www.calvaryalex.org, and click on the button, I want to sign up for emails. That way you can be the first to hear about all of the things that is going on here at Calvary. If you've had the chance to worship with other people and you'd like to enjoy communion with them, if you'd like to enjoy the Lord's Supper, you can go on that same website, www.calvaryalex.org, and click on communion. There's a liturgy there for you to be able to share communion in your home, as well as a full traditional communion liturgy on video on the website. There's also a discussion guide on that same website if you want to dig deeper into what 4 gray means in your life. You can just look it up there. If you're going to be around the Alexandria area, I'd love to invite you for in-person worship. This summer, we are meeting at 8 o'clock here at the church for traditional liturgical worship. And then at 10 o'clock, we are over at Luther Crest Bible Camp on the shores of Lake Carlos for a worship service that we call Calvary at the Lake. If you come early to the lake worship at 9 o'clock, we start serving breakfast. If you're also in the Alexandria area and you have kids or you love to volunteer with kids, we would like to invite you to join us for Vacation Bible School. Vacation Bible School is August 2nd through 5th, and we are expecting over 300 kids here at Calvary, and we are so excited. We can't wait. So be sure to sign up your kids today on that website, www.calvaryalex.org, and click on VBS. Or if you'd like to volunteer, go ahead and send me an email right on that same website. And now, as we close our time together, we're going to close with a time of offering. It's because of your generosity that we're able to do things like offer VBS to over 300 kids for free of charge, and then we can also stay committed to our mission partners. There are 3 ways that you can give, and they are on your screen. The first is that you can go to the website, www.calvaryalex.org, and click on the button that says Give. The second is that you can mail a check to the church office, 605 Douglas Street, Alexandria, Minnesota, 56308. Or the third is that you can call the church office with the number on your screen, and we'll help you figure it all out. Hey, have a great day, everyone.